Hello, everybody. Hi, and thank you all for joining today. My name is Tiara Johnson. I am a diversity communications consultant here at ADAA. For those who may not be familiar, ADAA is actually a nonprofit that is focused on prevention, treatment, and the cure of anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD, and other co-occurring disorders through the alignment of science, treatment, and education. So thank you all once again. I see everybody's joining in. Thank you all once again for tuning into today's conversation that's going to be highlighting Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest for today, Tanaya, author and mental health advocate, talking today about breaking the stigma specifically in Asian American communities. And so I will, oh, here she is. Hello, Tanaya. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I'm going to go ahead and jump right in because, as everybody knows, we are on a little time constraint. We're going to try to keep this within 10 minutes. Without further ado, tell me and us a little bit about yourself and why you would consider yourself a mental health advocate for the Asian American community.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm extremely excited and honored just to provide my perspective a little bit with ADAA. And I think your organization is absolutely wonderful and does such amazing work. But again, I'm Tanaya Kollipara. I'm a rising senior actually at UC Berkeley. And I'm also the author of Stigma, Breaking the Asian American Silence on Mental Health. I published this was my debut book actually last August, so August 2021. It feels like almost like a lifetime ago, but it was not that far away. But yeah, so growing up, I've always been surrounded by mental health and mental illness. A lot of my loved ones struggled with their mental health, and so I had a really intimate look just growing up, seeing the cultural stigma and how that impacted them and their health and their ability to even seek resources and help to improve what they were experiencing. So because of those experiences growing up, I find myself in a very unique position to help uplift and center their voices and voices of AAPI folks. I am of an Asian American background. My parents are from India, so I'm a South Asian. So I feel like I also have a level of understanding on what those stigmas and what those experiences are like for a lot of AAPI folks. And so I'm glad to help just provide my perspective in the conversation. Of course, it's not the end all be all, but I do believe that what I have seen and what I have experienced myself growing up allows me to it really encourages me to want to be that mental health advocate.
Well, I actually love to hear that. And it actually ties right into my next question, because you mentioned that you are an Asian American woman and you've noted that you've seen some stigma. So do you mind talking about maybe some mental health stigmas within your own community that you've noticed?
Yeah, of course. That's a really good question. There are multiple ways that stigma really presents itself in multiple sources. On one end, it's seen any sort of struggle with your mental health or with like struggling with mental illness. It's seen as like a weakness of the mind. And as an Asian American, which is one of the minority groups here in the US, as an immigrant, there's this expectation that you need to be perfect because a mess up could kind of mess up that ability to assimilate into a new country and into a new land. So because there's there's expectation almost to be perfect and to present yourself as quote unquote normal as possible, they don't want to show that weakness, and so they really try to quell and keep it inside. Also, a lot of Asian American or just Asian cultures in general, they're very collectivist cultures. And so your actions are not just your own, but rather a reflection of your family. So if you're struggling with your mental health, a lot of times the community will unfortunately view it as, oh, is it because your family's not taking care of you? Which might be the case, but a lot of the times it's not necessarily. And so there's this idea of like, oh, I'll be bringing shame to my family or shame to my parents or accident like unintentionally making people think like, oh, I don't have a good life just because I'm struggling with my mental health. So again, people really try to hide it because there's that misinformation and stigma around like what mental health is and what causes it essentially.
And so I like the fact that you actually were able to kind of like concretely give an example of what, you know, the stigma being weakness maybe surrounds. And that's actually kind of familiar to a lot of minority communities in
Yeah.
the sense that, you know, that fear of looking weak kind of has you shying away
Yeah.
from, you know, kind of seeking out support. And so, I guess what can people do within the community to begin to kind of destigmatize mental health and break the silence surrounding that?
The first thing, honestly, is just to talk about it. Talk with your friends, with your family, normalize that conversation. And if you normalize that conversation, that's going to have a huge impact because a lot of the conversations are on mental health and mental illness. And I don't think this is just unique to the Asian American community either, just kind of any community, because we try to have it behind closed doors, very secretly. We tell people, oh, I'm just going for a doctor's visit when we're trying to go see a therapist or a psychiatrist or something like that, because we're so quiet about it. It makes people feel like, oh, it's something that should be hidden and it is shameful. And because of that stigma is perpetuated. It makes
Right.
people hesitant to seek out support. So just talking about it in your own circles will have a butterfly impact and will have an effect of where people start to feel more comfortable about opening up about their experiences and therefore learning about the resources that are available, being connected to what's available, which would be great. So honestly, just talking about it, that in itself would make a huge, huge difference.
And so I like how you mentioned talking. And I know personally, even with your book, you kind of dabbled in that because you were able to talk to members of your own community and kind of get them to get a little more comfortable with some themes, mental health themes. And so because this is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, how can others continue to do their part to support the month and these communities?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, in kind of similar to the talking about it, just listen to perspectives from Asian American folks and from AAPI folks, learn about their experiences, their histories, and try to center them and just provide them, not even really center, but just provide them a space to speak out about their experiences, not just this month, although this month is very, very important, but just in general, really try to listen and understand their perspectives. And that's how you'll be able to acknowledge and support the community, is if you listen to them, because that will give you so much information, so much knowledge that you really need.
Well, that's great. And I feel like ADAA is currently doing that right now by
Yes.
offering not only you this platform, but continuing to provide resources on their website specific to the AAPI community. So in addition to, of course, like I mentioned, some of the resources that ADA has, what other mental health resources did you know that may be available for this community?
Yeah, so of course, ADA is a great resource in general, but there's also other organizations like NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, Mental Health America, Asian Mental Health Collective. Those are just some that are coming off the top of my head, but also look into your local community. If you're a current college student, a lot of college campuses have free mental health resources, or there are clubs and organizations that are focused on providing mental health resources. Schools, community centers, even your local libraries might have these resources. It's just a little bit of having to look and find them, but once you do, you'd be surprised how helpful it can really be. And that's something I saw and heard when speaking to people for my book with their experiences with mental health and mental illness. Just there are so many resources that you don't even realize are there. You just kind of have to put a little effort to look into it, which is really hard. And I wish it wasn't the case. I wish they were just like out on the table for us. But it's just they're there. They
Right.
are there.
And so as we're wrapping up, we're right at our time limit, which is great. I want to give you a chance to not only highlight yourself, but anything you have going on, let people know where they can get your book, because I think in a way that's also a resource for the community.
Yeah, of course. So you can follow me on this account, Tanaya Writes. This is where I post updates about my book, and as well as other speaking events and just more things about AAPI mental health. I also do have some exciting news being dropped today night in regards to my book. So I hope I'll see you all on my Instagram page today night as I reveal that news. But otherwise, you can get my book on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, just really any online book retailer. You just have to search up Stigma, Tanaya Kollipara, and it'll pop up for you. But again, thank you so, so much for having me. And
No,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate this.
I really appreciate it. And as you guys have seen, it's been a great conversation here with Tanaya. She's left all her information, so feel free to follow her to get more updates, to stay connected with AAPI month and all the things she has going on. It's been great. And everybody who's here, stay tuned for our next event. It's coming up soon. Make sure to follow us on all social media, and have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye-bye.